Luke Coffey, who's the director of the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Luke joins us from Shusha in Azerbaijan. Luke, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. How sincere do you believe the Russians are in offering an immediate cessation to hostilities, given their 4 demands that they made of Ukraine 24 hours ago? One of those, that Ukraine should change its entire constitution to become a neutral nation.
Not sincere at all. One only has to look at the history of Russia and their involvement in regional conflicts in the past to see that they usually do not live up to their commitments that they agree to in any ceasefire arrangement. 2008 in Georgia is a good example. There was a 6-point peace plan that brought that war to an end. And we're in the year 2022, and Russia is still in violation of 2 of those 6 points. We saw this play out in Syria as well. And we saw this play out with 2 Minsk agreements in eastern Ukraine that got us to this point where we are today. So I am not confident at all that Russia can be trusted or can be considered a genuine, honest actor in this conflict when it comes to this idea of humanitarian corridors or ceasefire agreements.
So where do nations who oppose Moscow's actions go from here if the offer of a cessation is insincere? How do you confront Moscow?
Well, we have to continue with what we're doing, and we have to condition ourselves into realizing that this isn't going to be over in days. This is going to last months and possibly years. And the Western governments, and not just Western governments, the international community needs to pull together and establish policies that can deal with this reality that this fighting is going to last for a long time. We need to do what we can to help alleviate the refugee crisis happening in Eastern Europe now. We need to continue with providing advanced weapons to the Ukrainians, get these anti-tank weapons, these anti-aircraft weapons into the hands of Ukrainian soldiers and fighters so they can defend themselves. And we have to keep up the economic pressure on the Russian Federation. We have to make sure that the Russian elite, the Russian business community, the whole economic structure feels the might of the international community and the sanctions.
Despite the hundreds and billions of dollars that the Russians have been building up in foreign reserves over the past decade or so, despite all the gold that it's been building up in its reserves, when do you think these sanctions as they are now, before even they possibly go further, when might the current sanctions begin to bite?
Well, in some cases, they're biting now, mostly in a very inconvenient way, when Russians can't use their credit or debit cards because they're not working, or they can't use Apple Pay. These are more inconveniences for Russian society. But the more impactful sanctions, the removal of certain banks from SWIFT, the sanctioning of the Russian central bank, and some of the other major banks that are in the Russian Federation, it'll take probably weeks, definitely months before the true impact is felt. And then on top of these sanctions that are coming from governments, you have international companies voting on their feet, feeling the pressure from their societies, worried about reputational risk, and they are applying their own version of sanctions by withdrawing business from the Russian Federation. And we have no idea how this is going to impact matters, because there are new developments in this area every single day. So again, I go back to my earlier point. We need to be prepared that this is going to be a long-term engagement. We have to condition ourselves to think this way, and we have to be prepared to see this through if we want to help Ukraine defend itself.
Luke, if it's going to be a long-term engagement, do you see the level of violence continuing as it is? I mean, there's an analysis that as things become more difficult for Russian troops, Vladimir Putin may order an increase in the aggressive posture, whether that's shelling or more troops or more air attacks from aircraft. But if it's going to be a longer-term conflict, surely the level of aggression and the fighting can't be sustained for that long. So what happens then if it does turn into something that lasts for years?
Well, Russia has shown in the past week and a half that it has only one aim, and that is to escalate the violence. We see the violence escalating every single day. And the major cities like Odessa, for example, have not even felt any of the fighting yet. So whenever Odessa gets attacked, as we see the Russian troops trying to surround Kiev, as we see the Russian troops become desperate in Kharkiv in the east of the country because they're not making much headway, we're going to see more civilian deaths. And we can talk about if it was incidental or if these attacks on civilians are on purpose. But one only needs a connection to the internet and a TikTok or Telegram account to see the devastation that the civilians are facing in areas of Ukraine where there are no military targets or military interests for Russia to hit.
Luke, thanks so much. Really appreciate the analysis. Luke Coffey from the Heritage Foundation, speaking to us from Azerbaijan.